Talk about the perfect sparkling wine. Alone or with a smoked salmon appetizer, it's got it all.
Let yourself be wowed by the SAQ's wide assortment of products. Wine, bubbly, spirits, including up to 90 products on sale until February 22nd at the SAQ. Nice advice, 18 years or over. Details on SAQ.com.
At Speedy, you're a somebody. That's right, a somebody. Is your car talking to you and you're not sure what it's saying? Take your car to Speedy Auto Service for a free battery test and under-car inspection and find out what your car is talking about. Go to Speedy.com for the location nearest you. That's Speedy.com because at Speedy, you're a somebody.
This is Game Day on TSN 690, brought to you by Baton Rouge Steakhouse and Bar. Enjoy their famous fall-off-the-bone ribs and tender AAA steaks. Baton Rouge, savor the experience.
Montreal East, your new hockey training complex is up and skating. Register now for Spring 3-on-3 Youth Leagues and March Break Hockey Clinics. Glace de l'Est with 2 ice rinks for 3-on-3 youth and adult leagues. Glace de l'Est also has a shooting pad, our gym strength and conditioning center, a pro shop, bistro, plus rooms for skating parties and special events. Reserve your ice time online. GlaceDeLest.com. New Glace de l'Est, all yours in the East End.
The entire Montreal Canadiens season can be heard right here. Habs, Bruins, tonight at 7:30. Brought to you by Essor. We're on it. On your home of the Habs. TSN 690. Welcome back to Game Points with Matthew Ross on TSN Radio 690. Follow the show on Twitter at TSN Matthew or online at GamePointsRadio.com.
Welcome back to the show. Final segment before the Irish Embassy Habs pregame show. Connor McKenna in the next room getting ready to come on air and take your calls and preview Habs versus the Bruins live on these airwaves at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Right now, though, we're going to talk with our next guest. He is an NHL.com writer, editor, and fantasy hockey guy. You can follow him on Twitter.com/David Satriano. It is David Satriano. Hey, David, how you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the program. Obviously, a busy day today in the NHL. A lot of back-to-back games for many teams, and certainly the fantasy mill is running well. Especially when you have the trade deadline coming up in a few weeks. Do you find that there's more interest in fantasy guys because people are trying to check up and see if it's worth picking up somebody if they go to a better team, perhaps?
Yeah, that's actually a big thing right about now. You know, there's a bunch of guys, for instance, like Chris Stewart on the Sabres. You know, he's had 16 points in 20 games. He's a minus 28, but, you know, when he gets traded, he'll be scoring. He plays on the power play. So, you know, there's just guys like that you just got to look for because, obviously, as soon as they get traded, you know, David Perron was another one. If you picked him up, you know, as soon as he went to the Penguins, you knew he was going to score and help out. So you just got to see in the next couple of weeks, looking at, you know, names that guys on teams not playing so well and, you know, pick up guys that can hopefully help out.
Yeah, I was going to say, David Perron, kind of the poster boy for getting out of a bad situation and going to a good one. We're chatting with David Satriano of NHL.com as we talk a little fantasy hockey here on the program. You mentioned Chris Stewart, and there's so many others that are kind of in that boat, maybe going to a better team. You look at the Arizona Coyotes, they got a couple of defensemen, Mahalik, you got Keith Yandel, possibly other pieces perhaps on the move, and then certainly the Toronto Maple Leafs. Would you expect the Maple Leafs perhaps to have the most pieces potentially on the move?
I think if you're right about the Coyotes first, they'll probably be trading a lot of those guys. And then I look at the Oilers and Toronto as, you know, the next two teams that will probably be shipping a lot of guys. You know, the problem is, well, not really a problem, but a lot of guys on these teams are, you know, pretty much owned in a lot of leagues, like, you know, Ekman Larson in Arizona, like a bunch of guys. So you can't really get them. But, yeah, those are the teams that are going to be trading guys. You know, I said anyone on the Oilers that goes to a playoff team, I'd pick them up.
All right, well, let's look at some players that you may want to either steer clear of or pick up in terms of Habs and Bruins. Obviously, there are some players that are worth looking at. You wanted to highlight David Desharnais.
Yeah, I actually wrote about him yesterday. I mean, he's got 8 goals, 22 assists. He's a plus 12. You know, he had 3 assists last night against the Devils, and he was skating on the top line with Pacioretty and Weiss. So you're playing on the Canadiens' top line, you know, you're going to score. And also, I was, you know, looking at their upcoming schedule. After tonight, they're playing the Flyers, Oilers, and Maple Leafs all at home, and those are 3 of the worst teams as far as giving up goals. So, you know, a guy like him, even Plekanec, who he had 2 goals yesterday. He had gone 6 games with just 1 point, but like I said, 2 goals yesterday. He's playing with Gallagher and Galchenyuk. So those are 2 guys, for instance, that are not owned in many leagues and can definitely help out as far as the Canadians go.
All right, we're playing the Canadiens. That is, are playing the Bruins tonight. Habs fans are obviously charged up, ready for this rivalry game. Who are some of the fantasy guys on the Bruins side of things that Habs should watch out for?
Well, one of the guys is actually Lucic, who he was my fantasy bust for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, as soon as I say that, he's turned it around. I mean, you know, he's not as producing as much points-wise as he has in the past, but he has 30 points. And if you need penalty minutes, he's got 71, and he's 100 for leagues. I'm in a couple of leagues with hits. He's got 163. So those are some pretty good numbers. And also, I'm not sure how Bergeron isn't owned in 100% of leagues, but he's got 3 goals in 4 games. You know, 35 points, 4 points in 4 games. So if he's out there, like, I would pick him up. But yeah, Lucic is definitely a guy that I would try to get.
Chatting with David Satriano of NHL.com here on the program as we talk a little fantasy hockey. What about some of the other guys on the Canadiens, perhaps the secondary guys? Is there anybody that you look at and you think, yeah, you know what, maybe he's worth picking up. He may go on a bit of a run, or is it generally your position that you got to stay away from teams that just don't score goals?
Well, I usually try to, like I said, I try to stay away from guys. I don't have any Oilers or, you know, any Coyotes really, because you need guys that can score. But also a big thing is, you know, I like to look at who the guys are playing with and what lines they're on. Because, like I said, Desharnais, I mean, he now that he's on the top line, he's like pretty much a guy that if you need anything, offense, plus minus, power play, you know, as long as he's up there, he will, you know, he should provide it. But yeah, it's tough when you look at guys on lower lines. You know, if they're not scoring and they're staying on the same lines, it's kind of tough. So I try to, like I said, I go game by game, check out the box scores, who play with who. Power play is obviously a big thing, so that's what I usually do. And actually, there's also a bunch of goaltending news today. I mean, Henrik Lundqvist just talked about his situation. You know, he said he'll be out for at least 3 weeks and be reevaluated. So Talbot's obviously the guy, if for now, unless the Rangers, you know, make a trade. But if you need goaltending help, he's out there. Mrazek's played very well for the Red Wings, but Howard's back, so that's kind of a tricky situation. And then as far as Hutchison, I love this guy. I have him on all 3 of my teams, but he's been struggling. He allowed 4 goals in 3 straight before the 2-1 loss to the Blackhawks. So Pavlich gets the start tonight, and Devin Dubnyk, can't go without saying anything about this guy. He's only in half of Yahoo leagues, 50%. He's got 3 shutouts in 4 games. 4 in 9 with the Wild, and he's allowed 9 goals in 11 games. I mean, if you need a goalie, those numbers right there, that's it.
Unbelievable. And then an injury today, by the way, with Philadelphia. Steve Mason helped off the ice today. Ray Emery, not tremendous numbers. They had that guy Rob Zepp up earlier in the season. Obviously, if this is any kind of week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks kind of situation, Emery, do you expect we'll get most of the starts, or will they go back to Zepp, do you think?
I actually think they will give Zepp a little bit more of an opportunity because he did played fairly well when he got a couple of starts there. But again, the Flyers are just a team where for the past 15 years, I mean, they have a different goalie it seems every year, so it's kind of hard to trust whoever they throw in net. But if you're that desperate, I guess wait and see what they do. But I think Zepp will probably want to get a look at this kid, so he'll probably get a bunch of starts.
He is David Satriano. Check out the work at NHL.com. You can follow him as well on Twitter.com/David Satriano for NHL Fantasy News. David, thanks so much. Good to finally talk to you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.